Hi. Well, I guess it's good and it's bad. Once again, I had the opportunity to stick up for men, or at least try to shut somebody down who was basically saying they're all bad. Anyway, welcome back to Far From Eden. As many of you know, I am an equestrian, which means I love horses, and it's more than just loving horses. It's more than just like a horse poster on my wall or something. Like, that is what I have in a previous life made my living doing, teaching people to ride, etc. So I talk about that a little bit on the channel, so I'm sorry if that gets on your nerves, but it's kind of what comes with being around me. At any point there's going to be talk of horses. Anyway, so those of you who've been around for a while on my channel know that. And so I was just at a horse show this past Saturday, and I don't really get out a whole lot. If you've ever watched my channel, you'd be like, I was at the bank, I was at the post office. It's not, not a big mover and a shaker, but I was at a horse show. And at this particular horse show, the horses are all outside of the competition area being held by someone before their riders get on, okay? That's different than most horse shows when you just go in. So to have people just standing around holding horses is a little different. And in this area, there is supposed to only be coaches and like somebody who's in charge of organizing that area. But, parents and like stragglers, they kind of, it gets a little confusing. So I say that, I'm trying to set the scene. So I was there next to a horse. You have to go and find the horse that your rider is supposed to ride. You don't know it, as you're like Blossom or whatever the horse's name is, right? So you locate said horse, go with your rider to that horse. My job is get the rider on, everything. I don't know much about the horse at all. That's the challenge of this type of competition. And so I generally ask the person who's holding the horse, because they're from that barn, so they know those horses. So I'm asking her, so tell me about so-and-so, whatever the horse's name was, and tell me about that horse. And they start sharing information. There was another lady, I'm not sure if she was like in charge of that area or not, but she was from that barn, so she knew the horse also. And she said one of the things about the horse, blah, 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 blah. And then she said, I want to get the wording right. She said, I think she said she doesn't like to be too close to men. Okay. So she doesn't like to be too close to men, or keep her from getting too close to men, something like that. That's not the bad part yet. So, unfortunately, my job is to keep my rider safe. And I look to the rear of the horse, probably a horse length and a half behind the horse are two men. They're just standing there. They might be a couple of dads. They might have something to do with the property. I know there was a dad who was helping park cars, and there's another dad who was being the announcer, and so they kind of looked like dads to me. And like I said, I have to keep my kids safe, and these are horses I don't know. So I said to the lady, men like those men right there? And she said, and I was hoping she was going to say, oh, they're far enough back, or as long as they're not trying to adjust something. I was hoping she was going to say that. And I had no ability to move the horse from that location. I'm one of the coaches. I'm not allowed to handle that horse. Part of the whole deal is that the rider doesn't know the horse at all, The rider doesn't get to know anything. I don't get to know anything until, boop, they're in the competition. So I'm not allowed to do that. So I had to say, you know, and you might say, well, if it was such a problem, why didn't she notice? She's not a coach or a trainer. Neither was the person holding the horse. They don't have the same type of mind to be like, scan the area, keep the kids safe. Like, it's a level of paranoia you have to have. It takes years off your life to teach children to ride horses. Even the adults would give me anxiety attacks just because you're like, you know, everything has to be just so, and you have to notice everything, and you can't take any chances. You know, horses are big and people are small. So anyway, so I said, kind of like those men. And she was like, oh yes. And so she, you know, very sort of horsey business-like kind of walked over there. It's like, excuse me, gentlemen, or excuse me. She was polite. Can you just move back a little ways, please? This horse doesn't really like men. And I'm standing there and I'm like, okay, my kid's okay, horse is okay. And I thought of you guys, and I was like, especially the one of you that I can't pronounce you know who you are. I can't pronounce your YouTube name, but it begins with a B. I think it's you. You said, you know, you have to, you know, stand up in person. And I was like, oh, good God, you're right. I have not been, not as much. I will talk to them about, you know, you should really steer clear of women and steer clear of marriage and that kind of thing. But I haven't stood up for men, but I've turned over a new leaf. Anyways, so she's like, can you please, you know, move a little bit this way? She doesn't like men. And I looked at the men, and in my head, I'm like, they don't look hurt. They seem fine. But also I'm like, well, I don't know what they're going through. I don't know if they're recently divorced. I don't know. And I just know what the reality is for most men their age, you know, sort of like middle age, early middle age. And what am I going to say? Like, it's literally from age 30 to 60. I mean, that group of men is just dealing with something along the way. It's awful. So I said, you guys, like, you know, it's nothing personal. You know, she just has an attitude problem. I was trying to play it off and be nice and smile, and they seemed good. You know, I didn't make it too weird, I promise. I didn't make it too weird. I didn't make it worse. I was just kind of like friendly. And then I said at the end, we know men aren't bad. And this is the part when the person who's holding the horse, she had to be, I'd say 15 at the oldest, 12 at the youngest, if I had to guess. And she's holding the horse. And like I said, the last thing I said was, we know men aren't bad. And I look at her and I just smile, you know, because you're like, you know, you turn. And she's doing like men are bad. Men are bad. She was literally saying men are bad. And she's, like I said, what is she, 14? And I said, men aren't bad. Men are bad. Men aren't bad. Of course, I look scarier like when I do this, but she had this young, like, I was trained to believe this way. I said, no, they're really not. They're really not bad. And it was like, I know you are, but what am I type of a deal. I didn't want to press it further. I'm not her parent. You know, and I'm also getting ready, like I'm getting a kid on, like we gotta go show. But yeah, she's like, men are bad. Men are bad. I'm like, really? I just, like, you know, they are getting brainwashed very young. People talk about, oh, you'll find a good one in the church, or oh, they're not all bad, etc. There was no blue hair detected. This was, you know, not someone you would normally think is like the raging, evil feminist person. This was a lovely young lady, girl, who's into horses. And generally, when you are involved in horses in some way, it's a more conservative, more traditional. I mean, that's generally the type of families you get. Comparatively, I will say. I'm not saying we're Little House on the Prairie, but comparatively. And here's this girl, just men are bad, repeating it over and over again, believing it. And I just am like, okay, that's where we are. I would never have my generation that. I can't imagine girls that age saying that in my generation. This is, I guess, what they call Generation Alpha, or like the kids now. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm already like, I bet you divorced parents and alienated from the father, probably told, oh, dad left us, oh, dad won't pay child support, or this, that, or the other. And I'm like thinking to myself, you got pretty good, sweetie. You're here at a horse show. I understand you're volunteering, but if you're volunteering at this barn, which is very nice, then you're probably involved with this barn in some way or another. So you probably take lessons, or you get to spend time around horses, which is like every little girl's dream. So what are we complaining about here? Like the level of entitlement already at such a young age. And honestly, when I was at the horse show, I'm looking around and there's a lot of women. Obviously, it's a very female dominated sport. There's more of us, I would say. There's more females. Of course, the top in each different of the types of riding horses and competing with horses, can you guess? They're men, they are. I mean, I did a video a while back about how I was responding to this, I forgot his name, but he's like a men's rights guy, and he was talking about how somebody had come up to him and said, equestrianism, the sport of equestrian is the only, like it's an example of like females being better than males. And I was like, ooh, two of my passions have come together. And I was like, actually, and just because a female wins a gold medal one year does not mean, like, I'm like her trainer, her groom, who built the barn, who trained her, who trained the horse, like, so just stop it already, just stop it. But yeah, so it's mostly, there's more women, right? But I also know from my own experience showing when I was younger and in the other circuit that isn't this weird, like, hey, get on a horse you've never ridden before, but this other circuit where you go with your own horses and it's really, really expensive. Like, I know who's funding all of that. Like, the women are like the wives and the moms, and the dads pay the bill. I think there's a lot of like horse show dads walking around horses. It's like saying, like, with t-shirts that say, I just write the checks, stuff like that. Like, I grew up, my later years of growing up, like, I started seeing that stuff and thinking it was funny that's what horse show dads do. Like, they do those things. What do they do though? Sometimes they'll haul horses to the show. Like, they'll drive the truck and the trailer and make sure the lights work and all the rest of it. Or like my dad, even when he had his own job, obviously he had his own job, but like he had this situation where he could take off time, and he would come and he would do the whole setup where our horses were and like decorate it and stuff. And it was like, but he was definitely financing it, and all the other, dads were too. And I was thinking about that when I'm sitting there. I'm like, all these girls are competing. We had one boy on our team, and I didn't see any other boys at this particular show. Literally one boy. And he was on our team. And most people think he's a girl. Do with that bit of information whatever you'd like. I have no control over that. Trust me. Things would be different if I was, well, you shouldn't put a woman in charge. So see, I'm already with my woman brain like, oh, if I were in charge, I'd cut their hair, and I'd, but I can think like that, but I know better to know that I shouldn't be in charge, because women turn into tyrants. That's what we do. So anyway, so the men finance it. So then to just, can you step back? She doesn't like men. Just step back, please. This horse is a little temperamental. Just say that. You don't have to say the man thing. Like, does it make you feel good to say it? Do we just want to talk about how we hate men? Maybe we should just stop the horse show right now. Does anybody have a bullhorn we can yell through? I take you guys with me wherever I go. Like, I was in my head like, oh, I'm going to tell them all about this. And then we had, like I said, we had a dad who had volunteered to do the announcing, and he's like, he didn't know what to say. So it's like, oh, you got to tell him what to say. He got the hang of it. And I mean, this is the best announcer we've had at any horse show. Hands down. He got into it. And next in the class is number 246, Andy and Megan, or whatever, And we were like, oh. So I was in that vicinity, had to walk past him. I said, you're doing such a great job. This is the best announcer we've had forever. And I walked by him another time, and I was like, we're going to have to convince you to do this at more shows. I think I only did it 2 times, but it was a long day. It was a long, long, long day. So that's why I have not made any new videos, in a couple of days. I went to the show and then I was dead. As I put in one of the community posts, because you guys have been with me for a while, also know about my fun multiple sclerosis that I battle. And sorry, I just got a text message from one of the men that I speak with and sort of counsel, and he asked me an interesting something. I was like, ooh, that's sorry. I'm a bit ADHD. There was a squirrel, but yeah. So, the announcer man, he was fantastic, and I was grateful to have him there. Like, he didn't have to do that. I recognized that he was, he was standing up all day announcing. I was talking about how long the day was. Yeah, I was standing up all day. Oh, and then, the MS. So that's why I didn't, that's why I think I was MIA Sunday and Monday. Just the headache and stuff. I just couldn't function properly. But I couldn't wait to tell you guys. I've been like, ooh, I have stories. And I feel like there might be another story, but I can't think of what it is right now. I try really hard. I will only write things down to tell you guys if it's like something that I'm responding to and I'm reading that I didn't write, or if it's like there are certain things I want to make sure I say, but I don't ever want to write down like, this is what I'm going to read, teleprompt, whatever it is, because we're having a chat. And a big problem in this whole space has been the lack of authenticity and people just trying to jump on a bandwagon and sort of be involved in the next big thing. And it is not what I'm about at all. I do not need anything written down to, express my passion about this issue. And I don't need it written down when the thing just actually happened to me. And that's how I want to, talk to you guys. Because I know you can look other stuff up. I know you can look up statistics, and sometimes I'll have some because it makes sense to talk about what we're talking about. But like, you can read about this, and you can look at articles and you can watch Pearl's show, and if you want to see some 304s, you can watch the whatever podcast. But if you want to sort of a bit of a touchstone to be like, yep, that's exactly what's going on out there, and this is an actual woman who sees it. That's all I got. I don't have anything fancy. I would like to get a microphone. So far, I've made $7.35, which is a big deal. It's like, $7.35 on YouTube. Woohoo! Because somebody did it like a $15 like super thanks or something like that, and YouTube takes its giant cut. but it's exciting. So that'll, that's going towards the microphone, and like, I'm not gonna lie, I want some back lighting that's purple, but that's probably not a good idea. That's probably wasteful, but I won't do it without speaking to a male advisor. See what he says. If he says no, then no. Then it's no. But anyway, I'm rambling on. I missed you guys so much. And if I think of any other stories, which I feel like there was, but I don't know, it could have been just that one, and I couldn't wait to tell you. So I want y'all to take care, and like and subscribe and do the YouTubey things, and I will see you on the next one. Okay.